we have a choice. And some people choose wrongly. They choose a path that's terrible. But God never left me. God has never left me. And that's an interesting part of my story as far as reconciliation goes. And it was interesting when I was in my master's program, we had to do a project. And so I needed a place to go and volunteer and learn. And I had done an internship in my undergrad as an intern for a probation department in Larimer County. And I worked with juvenile offenders, and I just loved it. But this time, I did all my research on abuse and being a victim and what it's like for victims. And I needed a place where I could learn more. And so one of my professors, who's the head of the graduate program there, said, I have a place for you. I'm on the board of directors at a reentry program. So we got to know the men who lived at this house, and they became my friends, and I would ask about them and how they were doing and how their families were and all these things. And I really didn't know why they were there. We didn't talk about their offenses. And so one day I was there, and it was as though the scales fell off my eyes, and I looked around the room, and I knew that I knew these men were sex offenders. But the very next thought was, but they're my friends. I know these men. And I didn't quite know what to do with that, because it had never occurred to me that these people who do these things, these terrible things, are also real people. They're not monsters. They've done horrible things, but they're people, and they don't look like monsters. And I just remember feeling this awe and amazement that restoration is not just for the victim, it's also for the offender. God is just as invested in the offender as he is in the victim. And so going forward, when I went to grad school, I ended up volunteering at a reentry program. It's a faith-based reentry program for medium to high offenders, primarily sex offenders. On a Friday night, I came and I gave my testimony to these men who were not suspecting this short girl to come in and tell them that, hey, guess what? I was offended against. And so I told them this story, and they had, at the end of my talk, there was silence in there. It was silent. And some of them were teary, and I thought, oh, great. They're never going to invite me back here again. I make people stop talking and cry. Afterwards, I sat at a table with a group of men, and one of them turned to me and he said, if this isn't the kingdom of God, I don't know what is. Here we are, and here you are with us. And there's just compassion, and that's something that God could only have done. And one of the most powerful things that happened in my time there is, as I graduated from grad school, I got a job there as a case manager. And then I got hired part-time as a associate level treatment provider with a therapist. One day we came in and we sat down, and the gentleman to my left, it was his turn to present, and my boss says, okay, Ray, you need to go ahead and do your presentation. And he said, okay. He took out his homework, and his assignment for that day was to read to the group his letter to his victim. So this letter is to never to be given to the victim. It's for them to process and really put themselves in their victim's place and really develop some empathy. And he said the most incredible things. His victim was about the same age as me. He answered questions that my 15-year-old self had. Why did you pick me? If I had dressed differently, would you have left me alone? If I said something different, what did I do to make you choose me? Why? And his letter addressed all those things. And I just wanted to lay my head down on that table and just weep, because I know I'm never going to get an apology. But to hear that, it was like this washing over me, like God had just poured that healing oil the Bible talks about over me, and it filled in those spaces. And it's really my heart that for another woman who would like to have that, I would love for other people who've been abused to have that opportunity to have a letter like that read in their presence. Because it's not going to be from their offender, but it's going to acknowledge that something terrible was done. Something was done to you. Something was taken away from you. You were harmed. This is real, and it was wrong, and you didn't deserve it. And God knew I needed that. I didn't know, but He knew. And He just has this way of tying the ends together, weaving the broken pieces together. And, you know, I have often wondered who I would be if none of this had happened to me. And sometimes I imagine who that girl would be. But that girl would not know the ultimate faithfulness of God. She wouldn't know that God could really be her healer, her protector, her provider. She wouldn't know that God sees her and that she's beautiful and that no other person, no trauma, no violence can take what God sees away, His relationship with you. And you know, this earth is so temporary. We're here for such a short period of time, but we get to spend eternity with our faithful God, the one who sees us, who loves us, who delivers us. You know, Jesus promised us, in the Bible that it was going to be hard. It's not, some people think you become a Christian and then life is perfect. And it's not that life is perfect. Life a lot of times really stinks. But God isn't going to leave us there. He's not going to let us go through it alone. There are so many times when I've thought, this just can't work. Like, how am I going to get through this? I don't see any options. And lo and behold, He makes not just a way, but some crazy way. He has this crazy way of making a way. I love that song, Waymaker, because He is. He'll make a way through whatever you're going through. And you get to the other side and you just look back and go, how did I get here? And you know that the only reason you're here is because God carried you through. And God can make that happen. God can heal you of being broken, and God can heal you of breaking other people.